You know, the meaning of 1111 is very simple. In fact, it is the conduit for life's protection. Many people around the earth have even been tugged by that universal draw toward recognizing the root, which is why they saw the number 1111. Now, I understand everyone just asks, what does it mean? And that is a valid question. But yet nobody sought to work it out. And believe me, the powers that are not going to tell you, which is why the orbs, as upon the Dome of the Rock, did what they did, trying to wake the human conscious mind to protect life from impending doom. Now, let's break it down. To understand universal mind, a blueprint field is needed. Where else can you see using 1111 as a key? Now, here we have a square. The four lines of that field need instruction. Ah, yes, the 1111. Let's apply them here. Now, we see a square and the 1111 conduit. That means that's that connection between both sides. Now, with that in mind, it also creates what appears to be an invisible square at the end, creating a cube. Now, having three parts, the first is the square, and that's that essence. The conduit is the second essence, as the 1111, and the invisible square is the third. So, seed to the invisible and an invisible is established here within itself, and it's that toward creation. Now, instruction is known by its parts. The square shows that it has four sides, and here is color coded. The purple dot represents the first cube. So naturally, we need three more qubits to complete its first essence, which here the red, orange, and yellow dots represent. This is what you get. So by the first part, we have the first four qubits, approximately considered as 1111 or 1111 at this point of development. Let's see what it reveals. Now, by connecting each corner of each cube through the center like this, we end up with this. Now, remember, this has instruction within, which tells us what to do next. Now, the first two cubes set the pace. Notice that the second cube connection that we established needs to extend through the field that creates that point of expansion. In doing so, spiral force is established. The field parts tell us that one, or purple, and one, the red, are united to create, in essence, the orange and yellow fields. And its continued curve. Now, this number is now 2. The process continues in the same way by extending the connected corners into the developed fields. As the other side to the four founding qubits, the green and blue fields assimilate with light blue field, for example, here, toward force in matter, becoming 3 fields. As we continue this process, we notice that the extensions create 5 more fields. Now this continues to 8, 13, 21, and so on. What we have is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on. The significance of this number is unmistakable and provable throughout the universe as the golden ratio. 111 is the link between the two, the sequence and the golden ratio. In fact, when we develop the other parts to the instruction of 1111 or 1111, a pure universal knowledge is revealed, language to the stars, which is why it was used in development of the Great Pyramid and its true meaning. More so, the foundation truth, when fully developed, is what was gleaned to create the religious narratives and structures we know today. Imagine if numbers vanished. There are no more numbers, no math. Human society couldn't exist without numbers because they have been guiding man from the very beginning of time. Numbers are the most primary and fundamental tool for mankind. From ancient times, the golden ratio as the divine portion has been linked to harmony and concord in nature and art. From the great spirals of galaxies' formations down to petals of a flower.
Now, what you notice here, you see 40 right here to the left? Well, that happens to be the indicator as instructed by the first instruction. If you remember the 1111, the cubit sides, such as the corners and their sides of each cubit, total 40. Which is interesting because that tells us, just as the first instruction, that 111, or the 3, the essence, the triune essence, is recognized. And which is we see right here in the antechamber, going into the king's chamber here in the Great Pyramid. The meanings are exact, which is why this particular location gives its establishing meaning after the ascending through the Grand Gallery.
But now we begin to understand how time was understood, how the days and including all existence can be rationalized within the year, and existence in development, to the understanding of the universal knowledge, that cosmic knowledge, or that foundation which we know is 1111, is that seed that gives us universal knowledge as a whole, because everything within it, as it expresses itself in process of development, it gives us those reasons that the solar system does what it does. It allows us to understand how this system is returning from the other side. In other words, how and what motivates its purpose by the time it reaches us in a reset. Because you have so many things that are dependent upon this conscious level of the species. Here we have the life zone, which establishes that without 111, we have life. But if we're including that 111 as a tool to in these levels, it becomes something of a suicide mission, you might say, because these levels correspond to the system's compatibility. In other words, if that conscious mind within is dictating the system coming through, and that conscious level within is in error by interpreting what really must be done, and that area above, or of the orbit of the system, is all inclusive, and look at the red ones. That's the area, the danger zone. Because if the conscious level is in the accepting part, in other words, they utilize the 111 as been used in religions, they limit themselves, and thus the destructive forces are going to be there, because you can see the system moving right in that area, and as you can tell, it's not going to be very good for the system itself as a whole. And that's again because of this conscious level of usage of this number, which is the reason why in the Great Pyramid you didn't use it. It's missing, in that antechamber. It's because it's not supposed to be actualized. It's supposed to be realized as that essence from within. We know from the very beginning of instruction. Here's 40, and these numbers are added individually together. And the key here is that when you add them all together, it creates the number 111 by what? Recognizing the founding number, 1111. So you add those together, and that creates this location of the insertion of the number, which tells us that it's not supposed to be used, but it's only to be recognized. Here, those three became those nails in Christ, as Christ crucified, including the other two who are crucified along with him. It's very simple, but it was a personification of this knowledge, which was the great error. Well, people just haven't realized that the Twin Towers were originally conceived for this purpose alone. Or, in other words, they had a preconceived idea when they developed the Twin Towers, what they were going to do with it. In other words, its end. It's very simple to see. If you look from above and look around and see the design before you, the plaza, what it represented, what it symbolized, well, you know now exactly what it symbolizes. It is a secret only the very elite have known. Here you see the towers as developed on the pattern in totality. Now within this secret, it tells us the crossing point, as we know, of the system. It also gives us zone areas of that crossing, and those happen to be the very same areas in between that are brought together in union, causing and gives us a better understanding and definition of the meaning of it and the significance. So here we look at the solar system as it relates to this truth. We understand that the location of the planes that supposedly struck are in this location here, just like the other side. They both correspond to the crossing. So in other words, the towers themselves were designed to eventually meet that fate. The location of the planes that supposedly struck are in this location here, just like the other side. They both correspond to the crossing. So in other words, the towers themselves were designed to eventually meet that fate. Notice the two exposed columns of 12 numbers. That represents the germ idea of the twin towers. Also exposed are 2 at upper left and 3 at upper right. They serve a purpose to the germ concept of what will happen to the structures. Now, exposed numbers of 568 and 93 and 111 are also seen. Now, consider exactly how these numbers were used. First, you bring them together as seen here. It is these numbers that reveal what was planned from the beginning. The number of stories to each tower is used by 568 deducting 93, divided by 110 to reveal 567 as that reflecting the hidden one, like the capstone. The totals that reveal alter sums of the same essence. The date of the tower's destruction is seen by the top qubit sums of 1136, understood as 11 and 3 plus 6 for 9, read as 9 and 11. The 111 is not used and is considered part of the hidden one. Now, together they reveal founding number principle as 1111. Notice that 111 is located at the point of the crossing, which is at level 40 of guide number instruction by first instruction of 1111. To get a clearer understanding, we must total the columns along with the unified sums of 568 and 93. Here we see that they are polarized to read from right to left as 8, 4, and 5, becoming 8:45 a.m. for the first strike along with the exploding rings within to begin detonation. Naturally, as symbolic of their knowledge and use of this formula, Flight 11 is established as the first strike, as in 1111. Because the upper sums were used for the date, the level underneath is used. 93 was already used and becomes silent, resulting in 309, read as 9:03 a.m. for the second strike. 93 also became the flight, purposely delayed, which does not strike a building. The sum of 105 adds 2 of influence, symbolic of the 9 and the 3. In doing so, the 30 is removed from 107 to both as process and destruction, as in downward calculation, to bring the buildings down completely, as well as establishing flight number 77, which goes into the Pentagon. The essence of 21, 11, or 111, 18, 12, and 18 are added here in that collapsing for 180. In consideration of 111 not to be used, and 2 were added to 105. 3 and 2 are deducted from 180 for 175, that flight number of the second strike. Now, the year of the destruction was established by using the 2 at the upper left and the 3 at the upper right as symbolic of the 2 strikes, or like those planes disintegrating within the buildings, which requires the deducting of 2 and 3 from 2006 to reveal the year 2001. The essence to the pattern in totalities became used as destructive instruction when polarized as a twin of 333 becomes 666, verified as the I am, the beginning and the end ideology. Here, instead of deducting 93, it adds 568 with 2 and 3 being the sacrifice, resulting in 666.